Hello and welcome. If you're new here, this is the 10th video in my attempt to complete the 2023 Round Britain Rally. This is a motorcycle challenge where I have to go around the country taking pictures of my motorbike and what are known as landmarks. If you like what you see here, the earlier videos are gathered together on a playlist on my YouTube channel. Do have a look. Right, so this is the last video on the road. I have 9 more landmarks to complete the challenge. There will actually be an additional video totting up what I've done, where I've been, how far, how much, all that sort of stuff. But for now, on to the intro and the first landmark. If you watched the last video, you'll know that this is the second part of my 9th trip out to collect landmarks. I overnighted in Oban, and when I set off in the morning, I was gleefully informed by the weather app that there was a 100% chance of rain. It did rain, but thankfully it didn't rain all the time. We're heading towards Highlands 2, the John Dudley Sandman Memorial by Clywani Loch. I have nothing really to add to the piece I did to camera about this memorial to the poor unfortunate young man. Now then, how do? Welcome back. We're in Scotland, and Scotland is doing its usual weather thing. So far I've had bright sun, I've had absolutely lashing rain, and at the moment we've got sun, which is great. So what are we here to see? We're here to see that little rock up there, which I hope you can just about see. That is the memorial to John Dudley Sandman, and John Dudley Sandman was or Sandyman, was a young man, 19 years old, who got lost on the mountains and was never found, and that was a memorial placed there by his parents. So it's sad in its way, but then again it's a marvellous place to as a last resting place. I'll just give you a good 360. Little waterfalls there, and the loch, the mountains. My late partner Jackie always used to say Scotland, she was never sure whether it looked better in the sun or the cloud, and I can see what she means. It's magnificent, and the cloud just makes it just more ominous. Anyhow, long way to go today, so I'll catch you later. Bye for now. On to the second landmark of this day, Highlands 4. And we're going a long way off the beaten track. As you'll see from the video, the weather wasn't nice. The location was remote. Due to the weather, I didn't stop to do a piece to camera. This landmark is a Victorian postbox built into a rock. Reviewing the footage of getting to the landmark, I was very surprised at the number of postboxes there were on this road. The location of the landmark is given as Red Point. Wikipedia says of Red Point that it's a small settlement in the northwest Highland of Scotland. It takes its name from a low promontory to the south, which marks the turn of the coast from facing west to southeast as it becomes Loch Torridon. It's about 10 miles from Gairloch, and on a clear day you can see the northeastern coast of the Isle of Skye. It's a beautiful place. I just wish it had been a dry day and a lot less windy when I was there. Moving north, we are headed to our third landmark of this day, Highlands 3, the Durness Millennium Cairn. Not sure I have much to add to the piece I did to camera, except I must correct one piece of sloppy speaking. In the piece to camera, I say I've come to the top of the British Isles. I hadn't. Nowhere near. I was on the top edge of the British mainland, more or less. But as you all know, the British Isles includes the Orkneys and the Shetland Isles, so apologies about that. After I'd finished doing this piece to camera, I had to ride to Altnahara to get to my hotel. This took me along the top of the country, towards Tongue, and then across Strathmore. On the road towards Tongue, I got stopped at a set of temporary traffic lights, and almost instantly I was engulfed in a cloud of midges. Despite closing the visor and being almost completely watertight, I spent the next 30 miles scratching as I felt something was walking about on my neckline. Thankfully, it must have been bloke midges, as I didn't seem to get bitten. Always remember, the female of the species is more dangerous. Now then, how do? We've gone north. In fact, we've gone about as north as we can do. That is the end of the British Isles. Well, it is on this side of it. Strictly speaking, John O'Groats, or even Dunnet Head, are a bit further north, but not by much. So what we've come to see is that thing, which is the Durness Millennium Cairn, as it says on the label. There you go. And this is the top end of mainland Britain. Should just point out that over there is the Durness Village Hall, and the gardeny bit is the John Lennon Memorial Garden. Why, you might be asking, is John Lennon got a garden all the way up here? Well, apparently he used to come up on holiday with his uncle, and be a far cry from city centre Liverpool to come up here, but he came up several times. So there you go. Right, that's me done for today. Got a little bit of distance to go before I get to my bed, so I'll be seeing you all later. Bye for now. So, having reached the top of the mainland, it was time to go south. We were heading for Highlands 1, the Queen Victoria Fountain in Perthshire. Just a note here about distances. From Durness to Perthshire, by a pretty direct route, is 118 miles. There's a reason why completing the Round Britain Rally is a bit of a challenge. Also, I have another dog ate my homework excuse too. I did some lovely pieces to camera for all the remaining landmarks and lost them all. It would be great to blame the tech, but this is a picnic problem. Problem in chair, not in computer. So from now on, I'll just be chatting to you like this. The fountain was made from cast iron by the Walter Macfarlane Company, Saracen Foundry, Glasgow, and commemorates the reign of Queen Victoria. A plaque reads, by public subscription in commemoration of the reign of Her Majesty Queen Victoria 1837 to 1901. The fountain is of special interest as it is a good surviving example and near intact, and it comes from the internationally renowned Saracen Foundry. These sorts of fountains were once a common public utility before ubiquitous domestic water supplies. This particular one was erected in 1902 or thereabouts. The Walter Macfarlane Saracen Foundry operated from 1850 to 1965 and was possibly the most important foundry in Scotland for producing decorative ironwork. They made a wide range of iron goods that were exported all over the empire. Many of these were architectural and were destroyed in World War II, donated to support the war effort. You may remember that when I set off from Oban the day before this video, the weather app promised me a 100% chance of rain. When I set off from Altnahara this day, the same app said 80% chance of rain. That must be better surely. As you saw from the last clip, I enjoyed some sun and dry weather. However, we're heading east to Moray and their landmark, the Highlanders Regiment Memorial at Fochabers. The memorial was unveiled in February 2020 and was designed by Jason Sweeney. The sculpture is based on the cap badge of the regiment. The regiment was formed in 1994 by the amalgamation of the Queen's Own Highlanders, Seaforth and Camerons, and the Gordon Highlanders. It was merged with other regiments in 2004 to form the Royal Regiment of Scotland and is now known as the Highlanders, 4th Battalion, the Royal Regiment of Scotland. As I left this landmark, which is next to a Baxter's food factory, I followed a farm vehicle whose trailer looked as if it contained beetroots. What was dripping out of the back looked very gory. From the Highlanders Regiment Memorial we head south. This is the 6th landmark of this video, 16th of this trip and 3rd of this day. We are now on our way to Aberdeenshire's contribution to the landmarks, a memorial cairn and seat at the entrance to Glenmuick. The cairn commemorates the spot where Queen Victoria met the 1st Battalion of Gordon Highlanders, who were in camp in Glenmuick. This meeting was on the 16th of September 1889. The Prince of Wales was due to present the regiment with their colours on the 18th of September. The plaque remarks that the regiment marched past Her Majesty and shortly after left for South Africa, where a large number of officers and men laid down their lives. The cairn was erected in 1902. After I'd photographed this landmark, I was heading for Dollar. I took the obvious route and passed in front of the gates of Balmoral. I was very surprised at the number of people about, until it was explained that the King was in residence. That probably explains the numerous Range Rovers buzzing about, with several muscular gentlemen in suits sat in them. They didn't really look much like farmers. As we start a new day, I've collected a passenger. Helen is with me for the last 3 landmarks. We're heading east from Dollar to Pittenweem, a small village on the Fife coast, where we'll find the memorial to the Fife fishermen lost at sea. The statue is a sculpture of a woman and child looking forlornly out to sea. It was created by sculptor Alan Herriot and bears the inscription, The memorial is dedicated to the men and women who make their living from the sea and those who have lost their lives doing so. The sculpture was unveiled in 2019 following a fundraising by the Pittenweem Fishermen's Association. For the penultimate landmark, we head to Angus and the Scott Wilson Memorial near Dykehead. This magnificent monument is dedicated to Robert Falcon Scott, Scott of the Antarctic, and Dr. Edward Wilson, and replaces two previous memorials. First of all, who was Dr. Wilson and why is it here? Dr. Edward Wilson was the chief scientist and doctor on the Terra Nova expedition of 1912, the ill-fated race to the South Pole. Scott knew Dr. Wilson from the Discovery expedition to Antarctica, and they were friends. Dr. Wilson was employed by the government to undertake a survey of grouse disease and lived at nearby Burnside Lodge. Scott was a frequent visitor, and it is suggested that much of the planning for the Terra Nova expedition was done there. Following their deaths, a fountain was erected in their memory at Scott's View in 1919. This was destroyed in a car accident in 1979 and replaced by a memorial cairn in 1981. This became weathered and the inscription difficult to read. In 2012, the centenary of the Terra Nova expedition, a local sculptor, Bruce Walker, designed and created this remarkable memorial from a 30-ton block of granite. This was provided by Breeden Aggregates. It was so large that when it was taken to Fife Glenrock Granite Works for initial cutting, it was too large for their largest saw, and one had to be borrowed from Bulgaria. The sculpture was unveiled on the 8th December 2012 by David Wilson, Edward Wilson's grand-nephew, and Falcon Scott, Captain Scott's grandson. It is the largest granite sculpture created in Scotland since the 1920s. It has images of Scott and Dr. Wilson, inscriptions known as the Agony and another known as the Ecstasy, two huskies, Osman and Starek, a pony with plated mane, Nobby, which belonged to Dr. Wilson, emperor penguins, and much more. The sculpture has tried to capture images that encapsulate the explorers' lives. It's a wonderful thing. Mind you, I'll bet this memorial doesn't get flattened in a car accident. We are going to the final, I'll say it again, the final landmark. This one is in Perth and Kinross at the Braes of Foss. And it's a cairn that's celebrating the 250th anniversary of the birth of Neville Maskelyne. So who was Neville Maskelyne? Why should we remember him? And why is there a cairn in memory of him in the middle of a remote area of Scotland? Neville Maskelyne was born on the 6th of October 1732 and died 9th of February 1811. He was the 5th British Astronomer Royal from 1765 until 1811. He created the Nautical Almanac following his work on latitude and longitude. He was a cleric and a polymath. Amongst his other exploits, he devised an experiment to calculate the density of Earth. Basically, he proposed that by measuring the deflection of a pair of plumb bobs, which were next to a very big object, like a mountain, you could calculate the mass of the mountain and therefore extrapolate the density of Earth. Sir Isaac Newton had considered this in his work Principia, but thought the effect would be too small to measure. To cut a long story short, Maskelyne was given the go-ahead to carry out the experiment, and Schiehallion, was a local mountain, was chosen due to its isolation from other mountains and its symmetrical shape. The experiment took place in the summer of 1774. To complete the experiment, the mountain had to be surveyed. That job fell to Charles Hutton, who tried to divide the mountain into a series of prisms and determine the volume of each. This meant the creation of thousands of these virtual prisms, which made making sense of the data difficult. To assist with this, Hutton mapped the mountain using contour lines, the first time this had been done. The result from the experiment was a calculation of Earth's density that is within 20% of the accepted value now. So Neville Maskelyne gave us a number of things, from his work on latitude and longitude to produce the Nautical Almanac, demonstration of Newton's work on gravity, and an estimation of the Earth's density, and, indirectly, contour lines. That's it! 82 landmarks, found and photographed. What happens next is I submit a file of photos to Dave to be assessed to see if I've got them all correct. There will be one more video where I let you know how I fared and give you some statistics about what it took me to do this year's rally. I hope you'll join me for that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit the like button, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be alerted when I make more videos. Hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.